that is tied for the sixth strongest earthquake ever recorded. The first waves hit Russia and Japan, where nearly 2 million people were evacuated. Ashley Barossi joining us now here for Local 4 Live. And Ashley, when things like this happen, obviously those alerts have to go out because those tsunami waves can travel incredibly fast.
Oh, I mean, up to like 500 miles per hour they can be moving. So yeah, you have to take those alerts very seriously. And I know you put that quake in perspective, saying that it was the sixth strongest. But when you think about the Richter scale, 1 to 10, I mean, 8.8 is almost as
a 10,
strong,
right?
as it can get. And so here's another live look that we have out there. And of course, flooding will become a concern in some spots, even under that advisory. So the great news is that that warning that was in Hawaii has been downgraded to an advisory, but we're still dealing with the advisory from that. So that earthquake tracker, once again, that was right off the east coast of Russia. But here's a look at Hawaii. So the orange that you see there along the coastline of the islands there, that's the advisory that remains in effect. Up towards Alaska, well, you still have the advisory there, and then that stretches down along the west coast, so for portions of Oregon down through the California coastline too, as far south as close to the LA area. So that's the earthquake and tsunami tracker. But let's talk about the science behind this, because a tsunami occurs when an earthquake has happened, pushing energy upward and expanding in all directions. So that then has impact with the water, the open ocean. And offshore, there's a series of waves that begin to build, pulling water actually off the coastline in some of these locations that we've been talking about. So that's called a drawback, where the water recedes from the coast. But then what happens after that, just before inundation, waves start to get larger near the coast as that energy is forced upward. So that shallow seafloor will end up seeing the larger wave. And then the inundation occurs where multiple waves begin to crash on shore, which will spread well inland. And that's why you hear that folks not only need to be taking shelter on higher lands, but you have to push farther inland too because of those flooding concerns. So as Nick was just mentioning, I mean, the distance of these tsunamis travel hundreds of miles up to speeds over 500 miles per hour. So that's why you're seeing these alerts stretching across a huge portion of the ocean. Now, some of those controlling factors, of course, the magnitude of the earthquake, the depth of that earthquake, and just the type of earthquake that we're talking about. So just to give you kind of a little perspective of just what occurs with the tsunami. But the silver lining in all this as we're waking up this morning is that we have seen that downgrade in Hawaii. And I just want folks to remember that, swimming is not safe. Even if you're only getting at 1 to 2 feet tsunami waves, I mean, that's going to impact the currents along the coastline. And so we want everyone to be safe. But you also feel for folks that are traveling to these destination places, too, spending lots of money for these possibly once-in-a-lifetime vacations.
Right. And as you mentioned earlier, people that don't have a good way to get in a car and just flee and get out of the area.
Exactly. Or just have familiarity with the area. Like, where do you go?
Right.
I mean, GPS sure can help you, but you have to know where to go.
It doesn't know where the tsunami area is going
exactly.
to be.
Right. Yeah.
So in the past couple of hours, we have seen these warnings downgraded to advisories. What's your best guess on when you think those advisories might expire?
It's really hard to say.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll continue to monitor the waves. I mean, that occurred last night, and so really within less than a 12-hour span, we've seen that downgrade. So I guess, my best guess would be hopefully by the end of the day, but some of these alerts stretch for the next few days. Originally, that warning was taking us all the way into next week on our map. So, there's going to be impacts or implications from this for probably a couple days, but hopefully you start to see a lot of that subside as the day progresses.
Okay. Ashley, thank you so much.